With one late-night confession just flipped the entire CMG empire on its head. GloRilla, known for her raw bars and unfiltered personality, just dropped a bomb that no one saw coming. In a moment that lit up the internet, she casually admitted to something that fans had only speculated about for months: a hookup with none other than her label boss, Gotti. But while the internet was busy reacting, Angela Simmons, Gotti's now ex, was noticeably silent. And then came the tears. And that's just the beginning. Before the headlines and rumors, GloRilla was simply the breakout star nobody saw coming. Bursting onto the scene with her gritty Memphis flow and viral anthem, FNF, she quickly became the talk of the industry. But what really turned heads was who noticed her first. Gotti. The CMG boss signed her in 2022, proudly calling her the next queen of the South. From day one, their connection seemed tight. Gotti wasn't just a label head. He was her mentor, her biggest co-signer, almost like family. Fans praised the chemistry, the support, the way GloRilla rose fast under his wing. But some began to wonder, was it just business or something more? But few expected how close that connection would get. It started like any other live stream, casual, unfiltered, GloRilla just vibing with fans. But then came the moment no one expected. Responding to a wave of spicy comments and rumors, she paused, smirked, and said it. Not even sugarcoated, just dropped the bomb. She'd hooked up with Gotti. For a second, it felt like the internet itself glitched. The chat blew up. Clips of that moment spread like wildfire across TikTok, Twitter, and fan forums. Was she trolling? Was it real? But the way she said it, so calm, almost careless, made it feel less like a joke and more like a truth that just slipped out. People weren't just shocked, they were invested. That confession spun heads behind the scenes. The moment GloRilla's words hit the internet, it was chaos. Fans didn't just react, they exploded. Some couldn't believe it, brushing it off as trolling. Others swore they'd seen the signs all along. The backstage clips where Gotti couldn't stop smiling at her, the way she always shouted him out like more than just a boss. TikTok detectives started digging up old interviews, subtle glances, Instagram lives, anything that could connect the dots. And it didn't take long before theories took over every corner of hip-hop social media. But the online noise was only part of the storm. Behind the scenes, the vibe at CMG shifted. Fast. Insiders started whispering about rising tension within the label. Some of Gotti's longtime artists allegedly felt blindsided, not by the relationship itself, but by the way it came out. There's a code in the music industry, especially in tight-knit labels like CMG. Keep business and personal very separate. And when the line gets blurred, things get messy. Producers who had worked closely with GloRilla started noticing changes. Studio sessions canceled last minute, calls going unanswered. Meanwhile, Gotti stayed silent. No tweets, no comments, nothing to shut down or confirm what was now the biggest rumor in hip-hop. Worse, the power dynamic became the center of the debate. Was GloRilla just being honest? Or had the label's professional boundaries been crossed in a way that could damage both of their careers? For a label that marketed itself as a family, the idea that something deeper had gone down behind closed doors sparked criticism and curiosity. But one thing was clear: whether it was true or not, the perception had already changed. And that's only half the story. While fans were busy analyzing every word GloRilla said, another name quietly started trending: Angela Simmons. Just months earlier, she and Gotti had been hip-hop's power couple. Red carpets, Instagram soft launches, coordinated outfits, the whole package. And it wasn't just casual dating. Gotti had publicly chased Angela for years, even referencing her in his 2016 hit, Down in the DM. So when they finally got together in 2022, it felt like a full-circle moment. But by mid-2025, something changed. The photos stopped. No more cute captions. No more matching trips. And then, without warning or a breakup post, Angela unfollowed Gotti on Instagram. He unfollowed her right back. Just like that, it was over. No announcement, no press, just digital silence. At first, fans assumed the split was quiet and mutual, that maybe it just fizzled out. But after GloRilla's unexpected confession, people started doing the math, and it didn't look good. The timelines overlapped just enough to raise eyebrows. GloRilla and Gotti had been spending increasing time together at events, late-night studio sessions, and private parties right around the time Angela vanished from the picture. Suddenly, what looked like a clean breakup started to feel messy. Fans began flooding Angela's posts with crying emojis, broken hearts, and not-so-subtle questions like, Did GloRilla really take your man? She didn't respond, but her silence said plenty. Then came the moment that changed everything. Angela appeared on a lifestyle podcast just weeks after the rumors exploded. While the episode wasn't directly about the breakup, the host asked her how she was handling unexpected changes. Angela smiled softly, took a long pause, and said, "Some people show you who they really are when the cameras are off. You just have to let them." Her voice cracked slightly. Her eyes looked glassy. No names were mentioned, but the internet didn't need them. Clips of the moment were instantly clipped and reposted. The headlines wrote themselves. Angela in tears after GloRilla's shocking reveal. The image of her trying to stay composed while clearly holding back emotion added a whole new layer to the drama. She didn't have to say anything. Everyone already believed they knew what went down. That leads us to the real question. After GloRilla's confession went viral and Angela's podcast clip stirred up even more speculation, fans couldn't help but wonder, was Angela blindsided? And if so, how deep did the betrayal go? Sources close to Simmons say the breakup wasn't as smooth as it looked. According to one insider, Angela had started noticing changes in Gotti's behavior months before the split. Missed calls, last-minute cancellations, and vague excuses about studio priorities. At first, she chalked it up to work. But over time, the distance grew, and just weeks before their social media silence began, she allegedly confronted him about a rumor she'd overheard through industry friends, one that involved a young artist getting too close. That artist, of course, was GloRilla. While nothing was confirmed, the damage had already been done. Angela's trust in Gotti was shaken, and those close to her say she quietly began pulling away. She didn't unfollow him as a stunt. She did it after what was described as a final conversation that left her heartbroken. And Angela didn't just disappear. She started dropping subtle hints. In one of her Instagram stories, just days after the live stream, she posted a cryptic quote, "Loyalty doesn't mean anything when it's one-sided. No context, no caption, just enough to set the internet ablaze." Fans instantly tied it to Gotti and GloRilla. Some defended her. Others speculated she had known all along but stayed silent to protect her image. Even more telling was her body language in public appearances. Usually composed and glowing, Angela showed up to a Fashion Week event looking noticeably withdrawn. Cameras caught her avoiding interviews, brushing past reporters, and sitting stone-faced through most of the show. It wasn't the Angela people were used to seeing. And while she hasn't publicly addressed the GloRilla situation, many believe she doesn't need to. Her silence is the statement. The unfollows, the cryptic quotes, the nearly tearful interview. Each piece fits into a puzzle that fans are still putting together. It's a tangled web, and what's happening behind the scenes might be even messier. The GloRilla-Gotti situation didn't just shake the internet. It rattled the core of CMG. What started as a viral moment quickly turned into a quiet crisis inside one of hip-hop's most powerful labels. Because when personal drama seeps into business, especially at the top, the fallout never stays private. CMG, short for Collective Music Group, has always branded itself like a tight-knit family. Artists supporting artists, Gotti at the helm as both boss and big brother. He built the label with loyalty at its center. And for a while, it worked. He handpicked rising stars like Moneybagg Yo, STG, and of course, GloRilla, giving each artist a spotlight and a platform. But now, that image is starting to crack. Rumors began swirling that not everyone at CMG was comfortable with the situation. Some reportedly feel that GloRilla's confession put the entire label in a compromising position. One source claimed that a few artists have distanced themselves quietly, skipping shows and group appearances where GloRilla or Gotti might be present. Tension like that doesn't just blow over. It lingers, and it changes how people move behind closed doors. More importantly, the dynamic between Gotti and his team may never be the same. When a label head is seen as playing favorites, or worse, crossing boundaries, it creates mistrust. Some fans even began speculating whether GloRilla's career moves were purely earned or partly influenced by her personal ties to the boss. That kind of doubt can damage an artist's credibility, no matter how talented they are. And then there's Gotti himself. Once viewed as a visionary executive with a golden ear, he's now at the center of drama that's calling his judgment and professionalism into question. For a man who worked decades to build his empire, this could be the moment where things either fall apart or force a major reset. Yet, strangely, the drama might also fuel the music. Fans are already watching for clues in lyrics, cryptic tweets, and unreleased tracks. Will GloRilla address the situation in a verse? Will Gotti respond subtly through a feature? And what about Angela? Will she speak through a podcast or drop a tell-all interview? The possibilities have refreshing timelines and waiting for the next twist. Because now, this isn't just label drama. It's a story everyone wants to see play out. And here's the twist you didn't see coming. This wasn't just a messy moment for CMG. It sent shockwaves through the entire hip-hop industry. Because what happened between GloRilla, Yo Gotti, and Angela Simmons touches on something much bigger than one confession: the blurred lines between power, loyalty, and personal boundaries in music. For decades, the music industry has had an unspoken rule: keep business and pleasure separate, especially when there's a power imbalance involved. But when the head of a label allegedly gets involved with one of his rising stars, it raises serious questions. Was this relationship consensual and private? Or was it another example of a power dynamic being exploited behind the scenes? Industry veterans started weighing in subtly, some tweeting vague messages about keeping the game clean and not mixing lanes. Behind the scenes, other execs reportedly began revisiting their own company policies, not because this was the first time it happened, but because now it was public, very public. And fans, they're not just watching anymore, they're demanding transparency. Social media isn't the same space it was 5 years ago. Viewers are smarter, more vocal, and less willing to accept vague explanations. They want receipts, they want accountability, and they want to know what really goes on when the cameras are off and the contracts are signed. The drama also highlights something else: the impossible expectations placed on women in the industry. GloRilla went from being CMG's golden child to having her name dragged through every corner of the internet. People who once praised her for breaking into a male-dominated space are now questioning her motives, her professionalism, and even her talent. It's the kind of double standard that's been around forever, but this situation just threw it back into the spotlight. And then there's Angela Simmons, caught in the crossfire of two powerful figures, left to deal with the emotional fallout while the rest of the industry watches like it's a movie. What started as a viral moment is now a full-on cultural flashpoint. One that's forcing labels, artists, and fans to reconsider how much of what we see is real and how much is carefully controlled chaos. Are we watching the end of an era or the start of something even more unpredictable? While the internet scrambled to process the chaos, GloRilla, she didn't flinch. No apology, no clarification, just kept posting like nothing had happened. To some, that silence spoke louder than any statement, because whether her confession was planned or spontaneous, it did one thing perfectly: put her at the center of the conversation. And GloRilla knows how to ride a wave. Shortly after the drama erupted, fans noticed she was moving differently. Subtle flexes on social media, cryptic captions like "pressure gets diamonds" or "it breaks the week." One post even showed her in the studio late at night, tagged simply "working." It didn't go unnoticed. Comments were filled with speculation. Is this about Gotti? She dropping a diss? Angela gonna respond? It was no longer just about her music. It was about what she'd say next. The truth is, GloRilla might be turning scandal into strategy. Every headline, every clip, every debate has one thing in common: her name. And in an industry where attention equals leverage, that's powerful. Some fans are already calling it her Cardi moment, the kind of high-stakes drama that turns rising stars into household names. Others see it as a bold, calculated risk, stepping out from under Gotti's shadow and forcing the world to see her as more than just a CMG artist. Behind the scenes, there's talk that GloRilla may even be considering a shift, either towards solo independence or leveraging this moment to renegotiate her place within the label. A bold move? Definitely, but not impossible, especially when the entire culture is watching her next step. Because now the story isn't just about who she's linked to, it's about what she does with the spotlight. And if Gotti thought he was in control of the narrative, he might want to think again. So here's where things stand. GloRilla's unexpected confession shook the foundations of one of hip-hop's biggest labels, dragging Yo Gotti's name into the spotlight in ways no one saw coming. Angela Simmons' tearful hints and social media silence only deepened the mystery, and the emotional fallout is still unfolding. Meanwhile, CMG faces questions about loyalty, power, and professionalism that could change its future forever. But the biggest question remains: Will this drama break Yo Gotti's empire? Or could it be the launchpad for GloRilla's rise to even greater heights? Is Angela ready to speak out, or will she stay silent and let the story play out? One thing's certain, this story isn't over, and every move now is being watched closely. What do you think? Could this scandal reshape the South's hip-hop scene? Or is it just another chapter in a long history of industry drama? Drop your thoughts below. I'm ready to hear what you've got to say.